What's up, guys? My name is Socrdave, and I'm bringing sexy back.
I'm bringing sexy back. The mother boys don't know how to act.
Yes, the super sexy picks of the day are back this time for college football week 8. You know what's not sexy is writing an article for 2 hours. 2 hours at 4 a.m. in the morning and then making the rookie mistake of basically writing it in the editor and it getting deleted. That's what happened to me last night. I was very disheartened. My pain is now your pain because now you have to watch my ugly mug for a few seconds. Yes, you have to because of this right here. You see that? That's all that's left over from all the research that I did about the super sexy pick. So, not a lot of nerd stats. But these are some sexy plays. So, without further ado, let's get into them. Number 1, Matty Mauk from Missouri. Mizou. I know that cheer all too well from what Missouri did to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago. This is a specific play for FanDuel. He's $4,500 minimum salary. Gary Pinkel this week, when asked what would change in the system, he said nothing. If this was on the road in the swamp, I would feel different, but it's at home. The line is close, and I think after a week's a week of first team reps is what I was trying to say. I think that basically he'll achieve value, and he'll let you have tons of salary cap relief there on FanDuel, which, as we all know, that's pretty sexy. Number 2, Anthony Boone from Duke. He is a guy that his price across the industry is still pretty low. He tore it up last week, prompting David Cutcliffe to basically call him just ridiculous. High praise from David Cutcliffe. He had 3 touchdowns last week. I look for him to continue that versus Virginia tomorrow. His only start last year was against Virginia, and he tore it up almost 300 yards passing. I think that they're basically going to have to score on Virginia to be bowl eligible and to win that game. So that is why I'm picking Anthony Boone. A guy that might be too sexy. You see that SNL skit? No, too sexy, but I must. That is Blake Bell for me. He burnt a lot of people, including myself, last week against what seemingly was an interesting matchup against Texas. He's going up against Kansas now, and while I think they're going to do a lot on the ground, I still look for Blake Bell against his home state that he grew up in. He stayed extra during this past week with his receivers to work on timing and routes, and so I think a lot of points are scored, and I at least see 3 touchdowns. That's why I'm going to stick with 3 touchdowns. So since his price is so cheap, you might roll him out there. Another guy that I'm not sure of yet is Davis Webb for Texas Tech. He's a system quarterback, but obviously there are some issues there. We don't know who's the starter is going to be. Davis Webb, who was the player of the week in the conference last week. Then you have Baker Mayfield, the freshman walk-on that led the team the first few weeks of the season. And then you have Brewer, who Texas Tech fans really like out of all 3. But if Davis Webb gets a start tomorrow, I look for his salary being pretty low, and that is why I would want him playing. As far as the running backs are concerned, number 1 would be my boy Jaron Seymour from Vanderbilt, anchor down. This is a little bit of insider info because of the premium subscription that I subscribe to on VandySports.com. It's a Rivals site. Yes, I pay for Vandy information and message boards. I'm crazy like that. That's why I play daily fantasy. However, the main editor, Chris Lee, basically asked James Franklin about Jaron Seymour being first on the depth chart ahead of Wesley Tate. And Coach Franklin said that he's done enough to earn that separation. So if Franklin's saying that, that's big. Look for Seymour to catch some screen passes against Georgia. Look for him to run the Wildcat. Vanderbilt's pretty effective running the Wildcat, so that is why I'm looking for him to basically assume that number 1 position. If you're looking for that extra roster filler at the end, Jaron Seymour, a very good option. As far as the other options, these are the color options. There are lots of good color options out there. So without further ado, let me get into them. Number one is Silas Redd for USC. He obviously is taking over the duties with Trey Madden being hurt against Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't have that same offensive line. USC counted on Redd last week to basically get them to the promised land to ice the clock, milk the clock, ice the game. I look for him to have a decent game against Notre Dame, and where his salary is, he's definitely going to achieve value. The only thing maybe that would make me eat my words is the whole running back by committee thing, which we all know is not sexy. So we've got Redd. Now let's go to Brown. Brown is the running back for Florida. He's, of course, filling in now with all the reps since Matt Jones is hurt. So look for Mack Brown from Florida to run it against Missouri. Missouri is good against the run, but part of that is because they have gotten up against opponents and forced opponents to throw so much. So I look for them for a Florida offense to basically keep it vanilla, keep it on the ground, and so that is why I really like Mack Brown this week. Trayvon Green is a guy some people or most people won't be on, but if Venric Mark is out for Northwestern, look for Trayvon Green, a guy that had 2 touchdowns each of the first 3 weeks, to basically get back to that form as long as Venric Mark is out. So that's where I see Trayvon Green against Northwest or against Minnesota. I think they put up a lot of points, and that's why Trayvon Green is a sexy play. The other plays, if you want to get into some more colors, you've got C.J. Brown, the quarterback from Maryland. You also have J.J. Green, the running back for Georgia. Both those are good, sexy plays for tomorrow. As far as the what am I thinking, this is not sexy, James Sims for Kansas. They are terrible on the ground, but he's the only thing they got. Charlie Weiss took a break this week, basically relieving himself from some of the offensive coordinator duties. So he said they're doing some fresh stuff. And because of that, I have to think they put in some specific plays for James Sims to get out in the open and to run free. So his salary has dropped tremendously low. Any other team, he would be incredible. But hopefully with this Kansas team against Oklahoma, maybe even in garbage time, he can do something. Speaking of that Oklahoma game, look for Brennan Clay to basically have a good game. He has established himself as that first running back in that running back by committee, but they are averaging over 225 yards a game on the ground, 18th in the nation. I look for them to add on to that number against Kansas. So as I like Bell, I also like Clay. I just think there's going to be lots of points after that Texas debacle last week. A guy that might be some of you never heard of. I never heard of him until Ben Pritchett, a.k.a. Natural Slugger, mentioned to me last night, and that is Fani Muhammad, the running back for Cal, not a character on Homeland. So he is the speedy first-team starter for Cal, and his price is minimum salary most everywhere. So if you are looking for a guy that's minimum salary that maybe in a GPP play, he might be one of those guys. Moving on to wide receivers, you got Josh Harper at draft day. I'm wearing my draft day shirt. I support you guys. I love you guys. But there was a mistake with Josh Harper. He's only 6,500 on draft day. I don't understand that. Other than there was a pricing mistake that I do understand. So take advantage. Hopefully some people will not catch this because it's so far down. Josh Harper is an excellent play. The number one play across the industry is him on draft day. The other guys, the number 2 guys basically, Jordan Payton is the number 2 guy for UCLA, and his salary is so cheap, especially on, well, really everywhere, especially on Draft Street, though. He's in that 3,000 range, and he has basically established himself as the number 2 target in that pass-heavy offense with Brett Hundley. Look for him to get a lot of targets. You also have Treadwell for Ole Miss. One scout earlier this week, one NFL scout, said that he was the best wide receiver in college football right now. Wow. I don't know if I buy that. However, he is getting tons of targets, and in PPR leagues, what they're doing is they're basically just throwing it to him, these little screen passes, wide receiver screen passes, and letting him run. So look for him to get 6 or 7 targets this week. or 6 or 7 catches this week and see what he can do with them. So Treadwell is a guy for his salary being low. Guys whose salary might be a little higher: Richard Sullivan, Marcus Sullivan, and Mulaney for Oregon State. Sullivan is the wide receiver for UNLV, and he's not as sexy as Devontae Adams, but he has come back from the team from personal reasons. Last week had 13 catches for 113 yards. So if you don't want to pay for that top price wide receiver, but want to go number 2 as far as a guy that has, or a matchup that has a lot of passing yards involved, look for Marcus Sullivan. His price is pretty cheap around the industry, 5,500 on FanDuel. Other guys, Mulaney, if he's feeling good, he was out of practice earlier this week. If he's feeling good, play him because they are going to throw the ball everywhere, and Cooks can't catch everything. Can he? Maybe he can, but they'll probably do some double teams on him. So look for Mulaney and Caleb Smith, the tight end, to do something for Oregon State. It's just a law of large numbers. Other number 2 wide receivers with good matchups. You have Darius Joseph for SMU. Ben's really high in SMU this week, and I tend to agree with him after doing some research. I think they'll continue putting the ball up in the air against Memphis. Jakeem Grant, the wide receiver for Texas Tech, Texas Tech is going to be throwing the ball everywhere, so if you can't take Eric Ward or Amaro, look for Jakeem Grant. As long as he's playing, there was some issues maybe with the head injury, so if he's playing, he also has a good matchup for where his salary is. And for the games that have the Pittsburgh game, look for Devin Street if you don't want to pay for Tyler Boyd. Devin Street looks to have an awesome day, as does Tyler Boyd, as does Tom Savage there for Pittsburgh. So those would be the wide receivers. Moving on to tight end. This guy, Isaac Blakeney for Duke, is a tight end on FanDuel. He's in the 3,000s, so play him because he is actually a wide receiver, but he's classified as a tight end. So that's why he would get my vote. CJ Uzoma for Auburn. He caught a lot, or not a lot. He caught, or he was a main target for that Auburn offense earlier. Got hurt. Now he's back. Vegas expects them to score some points against Texas A&M. He's minimum salary everywhere. So if you want to take the flyer on Azuma, do so. The only thing that scares me is that their lead blocker tight end might not be playing, forcing him to block more. So that's the only thing that scares me. But I'm all up on Caleb Smith from Oregon State. He's a big body tight end, and I think he practiced at the end of the week. I think he's going to be good to go tomorrow, and he's going to be awesome value. So there you go. That's my quarterback through tight ends, super sexy picks. Sorry this ran so long. I will make it up to you tonight when Ben Pritchett and I and Davis Maddock are on the College Football Show, 10 p.m. Central Time. Look for that. We'll be talking about some other sexy plays, that higher price sexy plays, but guys that you might not know about. Let me read off some names. Cody Fajardo, the quarterback for New Mexico. You have Sailor Lavalley, Jay Ajayi, Terry Baggett, the running back from Army, David Fluellen with Toledo, Martez Waller. All those guys are guys that you need to have, or some of them, in your lineup tomorrow. So look for that tomorrow, or look for that tonight, that show, 10 p.m., and we will get you started. Sound good? All right. We'll talk to you later.